Thank you for coming to CIBS Executive Lounge, conversation with CEOs. Today we have the honor to have with us James Zhan. James Zhan graduated from Jiaotong University, started his career at state-owned enterprises in China, CITIC Corporation, moved to the US to pursue a master's degree in Stanford, had an impressive career at Bechtel in both US and China, and in 2006 he joined Tata and currently serves as president of Tata Group China. So James, thank you very much. You have an absolutely amazing career, and in a way I see you as an example of many Chinese that are coming back to China after having this global experience. Yeah? You started in a state-owned enterprise in China, then went to a company in the US, and now back to China as head of a very huge Indian group, Tata. Can you tell us, it was by design or by chance?
Thank you, Professor Fernandez. CIBS is a very prestigious school, and we have a lot of experience with your school. Thank you very much. For your question, no career is by design. It all happened by a series of unplanned events. When I finished school in Shanghai, and China was just opening up, and CITIC was recruiting. CITIC was a startup with a few hundred employees. So I was very curious. Went to Beijing, interviewed, and they took me. Very exciting early years. Then there's opportunity to study in the US. So I took it. CITIC colleagues and my friends suggest I stay in the US for a while. So I stayed there. I joined Bechtel, want to come back to China. So there's an opportunity with the Bechtel Corporation. I returned to Hong Kong and doing many of the Chinese business and Chinese investment projects. At a certain time, headhunter find me, asked me whether I want to try something different. Then I joined Tata. I thought it was a very unique company, a very unique group, and that will give me a very different perspective. So that happened. So nothing came by design.
But we can say that you were ready to take the opportunities.
You have to make choices. Do you want to stay in China? You want to leave? Now I took the decision to leave. And when I was in the US, do you want to stay? You want to return? So I got Hong Kong. And then you still have a choice: stay in Hong Kong or coming back to where you came from. That was by choice.
In my conversations with CEOs of multinationals, one observation is that the number of Chinese occupying those high positions is growing. And many of them have a similar background than you, an international career before coming to China. How important is to have this international experience to reach that high level in multinational organizations in China?
I think in the past, you probably have to be able to connect to the headquarters, to understand where the company you're working on, where it is coming from, their customer base, their product, their culture. And then when you work in China, you have to coordinate with all of your colleagues back to their home country. And if you don't have that background, it is pretty difficult to connect, to communicate. The communication skills is always most important thing when you move higher. And going forward, maybe less so. China becomes very international. Some of the very capable managers, they probably never worked in the home headquarters. but they have a certain international experience, maybe study, maybe certain training, but with extensive work in the Chinese market, probably they can still do that.
Now, when I think of multinationals, what comes to my mind are US, Europe, and Japan. There are few multinationals that come from other countries. Tata, in a way, is one of those, a very successful one. You enter China and very successful in China. Do you see that there are more of these companies, multinationals coming from other countries than those three? And what are the factors that make them successful in China?
First, for Tata, Tata is quite international. So it has over 2/3 of the business coming from outside India. Its major subsidiaries, Tata Motors, probably 80% of the business is Jaguar Land Rover. Big operations in UK, US, China. For Tata Steel, they have a major part of the Tata Steel Europe acquired Tata Consultancy Services, TCS. They have probably 90% of their business in outside India. Mostly it's in the US and Europe. So Tata essentially is a very international, in certain way, is quite similar to those US multinationals. There will be other multinationals in a different way, like in Asia. There are many multinationals from other countries also doing very successful business in China.
You joined Tata in year 2006. That's a long time ago. China was a very different country then, yeah? During this time, you witnessed many changes. The changes in Chinese consumers, emerging of domestic competitors, Chinese companies, and also all the digital revolution. How Tata has adapted to these changes?
It's a long question, and basically by many attempts to try to understand the market, we always try to duplicate something that was successful in other countries. And we also always try the original plan idea, but we have to modify. For example, in early years, the luxury car is a very tiny part of the auto market in China. And nobody thought it's going to explode it to where we are today. We have this luxury car business, Jaguar Land Rover. It was very small. There were 20 people in China dealing with distributors. But that business started to show signs of explosive growth. Then Jaguar Land Rover, of course, together with Tata Motors and the Tata Group, start to think what's the best way. And then structure the business to become a wholly owned trading company. Moving from there, there's a domestic manufacturing looks like the way to go to lower cost. Then gradually we moved to the JV. Looking back, that was a revolution of consumption in China. For manufacturing, we used to have a few steel plants, and we also have other few small manufacturing plants. But the market has become too competitive. You have to have size in steel making business. Eventually, we sold our ownership to our Chinese partners. We become for steel, become a sourcing company. And that steel sourcing and trading business has become pretty substantial. I think that's suit both what Chinese market can provide and also what Tata needs in Tata's home market in India and the steel market in Europe. Every year, try to explore various ways to capitalize China's capability as a market to sell product, as a market source product, source equipment, and source technologies. Any given time, we'll try many different things. If it doesn't work, we dropped, we close down, and then focus on more successful initiative.
One thing that Tata, my opinion, is very strong is in all the digital. And you see China there is this digital revolution, yeah? How do you, from your point of view, see all these digital changes taking place in China, and what is Tata doing to take advantage or cooperate or participate in that revolution?
Well, compared to the changes in China, what Tata has done is not enough. We should have done more, but we're trying. Number one, our key digital arm is TCS. They provide IT business process outsourcing business for banks, insurance companies, telecom, consumer product companies. In China, we're trying to replicate our experience with a certain success. TCS was the core banking service provider for Bank of China with about 20,000 branches. What we captured is a very small piece of the big digital business that's growing very fast in China. But we're still trying to strategize how to do it. For example, the government. For example, the services to the likes of Alibaba, Tencent, Huawei, and many smaller players, and also the cloud business. We are also working on some specific verticals like auto design, especially electric vehicle auto design. We designed NIO, the Chinese electric vehicle company, 蔚来汽车, NIO, and we have done design for Beijing Auto for their electric vehicle, for Guangzhou Auto, their electric vehicle. In auto electronics, we're doing the ADAS system, active safety, autonomous driving assistance system. So we're trying, but compared to the size of the market, what we have achieved is a tiny part of it. We could do. There's a lot more potential.
How do you see the China business landscape evolving in the next, let's say, 10 years, in terms of international company coming into China and Chinese companies going abroad?
And it's a very difficult answer. Over the long term, foreign companies will be quite successful in China, and the Chinese company will be successful overseas. However, in the short term, we have a number of challenges. First, for foreign companies in China, I would like to make a bold prediction. Many foreign companies will fail in China or not achieving their original goal because Chinese market is very, very competitive. You have to have a very unique product or services that your Chinese competitors cannot do well with a competitive price. We have seen so many Chinese companies in various stage of development, from early stage to growth stage to almost the market dominant stage in various vertical sectors. They have very different management philosophy. Mostly they are private. They have learned so much. They were funded by very intelligent Chinese entrepreneurs educated overseas, or mostly many of them worked in multinational companies. They have learned advantages of the disadvantages of MNC operating in China. These are fundamental competitive factors in the market that MNCs have to deal with. MNC comes to China with the baggages, like their overhead is more expensive. They have coordinated with headquarters, so the response time is slower. When you can overcome those issues, then you can be successful. But I don't see all of them can do that. So for Chinese companies going overseas, similarly, when you're very successful in China, when you go overseas, your mindset is more like Chinese. And when you go overseas, you think the way successfully implemented in China would be successful in overseas. It's actually not. You have seen many of the challenges Chinese companies facing when they acquire foreign companies. Many of the very expensive acquisitions to the smaller acquisitions. Put this way, all the MNC's mistakes they made in China are being made by the Chinese companies overseas. In addition, the Chinese companies they have more drawbacks. If it is being family owned, you have the command and control issue. I cannot respond quickly. If it's a SOE, then you have a reporting system that very inefficient in dealing with the US, European, or Latin America, or even Asian market. And the time difference also is an issue, the cultural difference. I have not seen an easy way to overcome this in the short term. Probably we need another generation of international managers, entrepreneurs. When China is more open, you can absorb international talents in China and use the talent to go overseas. Probably is a better way, but it's a big cultural issue. I don't see a short-term solution for this. It doesn't mean Chinese company will not be successful in exporting products. China will continue to sell excellent product to overseas market. But when you talk about direct investment, like the foreign market see you as one of them, that will take time.
Currently, they are talking about this decoupling, separating China from the rest of the world. You think that is realistic? Is something that will happen?
It's not realistic, but it is happening, at least in terms of direct investment, in terms of people exchange, and probably less so in terms of export of products.
My next question is about the two countries that you know well, India and China. Both of them are the biggest markets in the world. Are they taking advantage in their business relationship of that opportunities?
Both countries are trying. Two-way trade was around $58 billion in favor of China. China's trade surplus is close to $40 billion last year. India wants to sell more to China. The challenge is probably Indians are better off by use their competitive advantage, use the Chinese industrial products to their own use, then to help the making Indian process, use Chinese experience to speed up that process. India has other competitive advantage, like the software export to the US, to other countries. In the end, India is running a trade balance, but with the world, but not with China. Both countries could do more. However, there are political issues. The reason the border issue, the restriction on Chinese investment in India, and the suspension of mobile apps in India. And so far, China has been very refrain, not trying to retaliate, because China is careful with this trading partner with a huge surplus. What could it do more is the investment, but investment there's an issue. India is very cautious about Chinese investment. What India could do more is sell to China more, and that's happening with us. We're taking advantage of Chinese the robust market demand, selling recently steel products, because India's market at this time is slow. So we would like to use this opportunity to sell our excess product to China, and we're doing more. In the future, I'm quite positive that the countries will work out their differences, because economic needs will overwhelm their political differences. India, the most challenging issue is how to industrialize the nation with a feasible way. The way that India followed in the past, tried to replicate the Western countries' development strategy, probably is not easily implemented in India, because the markets, this population is so large, the basic infrastructure is not there, and China has shown the world another way how to develop from a very low level to medium developed country with infrastructure, with mass mobilization of the population to manufacturing. This is a very important experience for India.
You know, in the MBA, our biggest international students body come from India. As president of an Indian company in China, do you have any advice for them looking to develop their career in China?
There are many successful Indian executives working in China. So all of them are role models for the MBA students. If I go deeper, probably those senior executives have been through many different roles. They've been working in many different countries and now in China, because they are business quite international, or their customers quite international. For MBAs in their early career, if they want to develop a career in China, you need to be thinking what kind of a job you want to take on and what a job is available. If the job requires a very intensive interaction with the Chinese government, Chinese consumers, or Chinese suppliers, then the Chinese language becomes very important, not just verbal, but written Chinese language. You have to be mindful. There are other roles for the MBAs. That's to develop Indian or the South Asia markets for international companies or for Chinese companies. Similar to the case that the Chinese students studied in the US. After finishing, they joined the US company, and US company sent them to their home country or nearby country, left to Asia, to develop business. So that's another way to do it. At this time, I see there's issue for Chinese investment in India. So that approach probably will take a little bit more time. But you see the successful examples of Xiaomi is hiring the Indian CEO, TikTok, all the tech company they have for Indian head in India, for India. But that is not enough. We need more Chinese companies, traditional companies, to go to India. There are always opportunities, even working in China, because your customer can, even in China, your customer can be foreign companies, can be foreign consumers, can be that many. Indian students' advantage is their English is better. The way of thinking is less strict. Indian managers, they have a more flexible mindset, able to handle ambiguities better.
Thank you very much. It's been a great conversation, and I wish you the best, and perhaps I see you soon here in Shanghai. Thank you.